You know, there's this invisible rule book that pretty much governs your entire life. It's not something they hand you when you're born, but believe me, it's there, shaping just about everything. What are we talking about? The Philippine Civil Code. And today, we're going to break it down and see how it's basically the user manual for your life, from the moment you begin right to the very end.
So, let me ask you, what are these invisible rules, really? Well, they're the rules that define who you legally are, what you're allowed to do, what you can't do, and even how you're supposed to interact with everyone else. Let's follow this thread because it literally runs through all of our lives.
And here's where it gets interesting. This whole story starts way earlier than you probably think. The law's influence? It doesn't kick in on your birthday. No, it actually starts the moment you're conceived, giving you protections and rights before you even take your first breath. How wild is that?
And of course, it follows you through all of life's biggest moments. Think about getting married, for instance. That feels like a super personal choice, right? But in the eyes of the law, it's also a major legal event with a really specific set of rules and consequences, all laid out in the code.
But it doesn't stop there. It's not just about the huge, life-changing events. The Civil Code is right there in the small, everyday stuff too. In our daily relationships, the promises we make, and what we owe to each other. So, you ready? Let's start with the absolute basics.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to understand the ground rules first. Let's jump into Section 1, the law of the land. Honestly, you can just think of it as society's main operating system.
Okay, this right here, Article 3, this is one of the most powerful, non-negotiable ideas in all of Philippine law. It basically says, hey, ignorance is not an excuse. You just can't say, oh, I didn't know that was the law. This is exactly why knowing the rules of the game is so important for all of us. I mean, it's the very foundation the whole system is built on.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, the whole system is designed to be stable and predictable, right? You see, laws have to be published so that we can actually know what they are. They don't work backward in time, which is fair. If you break a really important rule, whatever you did is just void. And get this, even court decisions become part of the law, helping to spell things out for everybody. It's all about making things fair and keeping order.
All right, now that we've got the basics down, let's get a little more personal. Moving on to Section 2, from birth to personhood. This is where your legal story begins. So when does the law actually see you as a person?
The legal term for this is civil personality, and it kicks in the moment you're born. But, and this is a really important detail from the law, it also looks out for a conceived child. For anything that's good for the child, like say inheriting something, the law considers them born already, with one condition: they have to eventually be born alive. It's a really amazing way the law provides protection right from the very, very beginning.
Okay, stick with me here. The law talks about two different kinds of capacity. Let's break it down with a simple analogy. First, there's juridical capacity. Think of this as being a player in the game of life. Just by being human, you're in the game. You have it from birth to death. Then there's capacity to act. This is your power to actually make a move in the game. You know, sign a contract, buy a car, that kind of thing. This one isn't automatic. It can be limited by stuff like your age.
All right, speaking of making big moves in the game of life, let's talk about marriage. In our next section, we're going to see that the Civil Code sees marriage as way more than just a simple contract. It's treated as a fundamental pillar of society, and believe me, it has its own very special rulebook.
So for a marriage to actually be legit in the eyes of the law, there are 4 things you absolutely have to have. Number 1, legal capacity. Both of you have to be old enough. Number 2, consent. You have to be doing it freely, no pressure. 3, the person officiating has to have the proper authority. And 4, you got to have that valid marriage license. If you're missing even one of these, the law might say your marriage doesn't even exist.
And yeah, the law takes this stuff very seriously. I mean, look at this list. If any of these things are true, the marriage is considered void from the absolute start. This isn't something you just get annulled later on. Legally speaking, it's like it never, ever happened. It just shows you how much the state wants to protect the institution of marriage.
Okay, so you've checked all the boxes. The marriage is valid. Now what? What happens after the wedding? Let's dive into the default rules for married life, what you owe each other, and of course, how you handle your property.
Right here in Article 109, the law lays out the core duties you have to each other as spouses. And listen, this isn't just some nice suggestion or a moral guideline. This is the actual legal foundation of the family. Living together, mutual respect, fidelity, and supporting each other. It's written right into the law.
All right, let's get to the practical stuff, money. Now, Unless you specifically signed a prenup to do something different, the law has a default system for you. It's called the conjugal partnership of gains. The idea is actually pretty straightforward. Everything you earn from your job and all the income that comes from your separate properties during the marriage, it all goes into one common fund.
This table makes it super clear. So the salary you earn while you're married? Yep, that's shared. The rent you get from a property you owned before you got married? Surprise, that income is also shared. But the property itself, the condo, the house, that stays yours and yours alone. Same thing for any inheritance you might get. That's exclusively yours. So you see, it's a pretty clear system for what's shared and what's not.
Okay, so we've covered birth, we've covered marriage. Let's zoom out a bit. What about everybody else? How does the Civil Code shape how we deal with our neighbors, our coworkers, and just people in general?
This right here, Article 19, is basically the golden rule of the Civil Code. It's the core idea behind all of our interactions with other people. It sets the standard for everything, saying we have to act with justice, give everyone what they're due, and always, always observe honesty and good faith. It's that simple and that important.
And the law gets really specific about protecting your personal peace and quiet. Article 26 gives you the power to take action for things that might not be crimes in the traditional sense, but are still super harmful. I mean, just think about it. Someone snooping around your home, meddling in your private life, gossiping to make you lose friends, or humiliating you because of who you are or what you believe. The law says, no, that's not okay, and it gives you a way to fight back.
So, as we start to wrap this up, it's pretty clear, isn't it? The Civil Code is so much more than just a dry, old book of rules. It's really the blueprint for how we build a fair and just society. It's like the code that's constantly running in the background of all our lives, every single day.
And that really just leaves us with one last question for you to think about. We've talked about everything from the rights of an unborn child, to the strict rules of marriage, to that simple, powerful idea of just being decent to one another. So which of these invisible rules that we've brought to light today is going to change the way you see your world from now on?